Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, John. Welcome to Interfaith Community Sanctuary this beautiful May morning. Wow. We have a lot to be grateful for right here, right now. And I'm grateful that all of you showed up this morning and you're here to share and to go a little deeper into our spiritual lives this morning. My name is Sally Jo Gilbert de Vargas. I'm co-minister here. My co-minister, Jamal Rahman, is off in Las Vegas. He is not gambling. He is working with his friend Gard, who has a wonderful interfaith program there, or I should say programs. And Jamal is running a very busy schedule of weekend workshops and retreats and services. I think he's been in the mosque, he's been everywhere. We'll hear more about it when he comes back, but I know they're working him pretty hard and keeping him busy. So he's there doing our work in other parts of the country and region, like we so much appreciate about Jamal. And we're here holding down the fort. So I know this is the first Sunday, and some of you may be expecting a guest speaker, because for so many years and in so many ways, we've brought guest speakers the first Sunday. And we will have a guest speaker for May, but she had to switch out to the last Sunday this month because of a schedule conflict that she had, and that is Sister Kathleen Pruitt, who is a Catholic monk, a Catholic nun, and a Buddhist nun, both by training. Very interesting, beautiful, wonderful spiritual person. She will be here at the end of May, so you'll be watching for the announcement about her schedule later. So I decided to move the fifth Sunday up to today so we can have our congregant conversations together. So that's the plan for this morning. So we will begin with our opening offerings, and I think that Gretchen is going to invite our ancestors to the gathering here this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, online. I always think of Pam Jensen. So Pam, if you're watching, hi. I'm going to be welcoming in the ancestors, and this is actually, the timing is good because my father just passed away last Monday night. So of course, I'm thinking about him and all of that. And now he's like an ancestor, which I can see him smiling. I made it. I am the continuation of my parents. I am the continuation of my ancestors. This is very clear. I do not have a separate self. Looking into myself, I can see my father, my mother, in every cell of my body. I can see my ancestors in every cell of my body. I can see my country, my people, in every cell of my body. I can see that I am made of many elements that can be described as non-me elements. I am made of non-me elements, and when these elements come together, they produce me. So I am that. I do not have a separate existence. I do
generations of people who sacrificed and shared for their descendants, holding the land that still sits here unceded by the native peoples. As I believe I mentioned, they were the Coast Salish peoples, of which there are several tribes, the Muckleshoot, the Puyallup, the Tulalip, many that I'm going to forget if I try to mention all of them. And one that I'd like to particularly acknowledge is the Duwamish. The Duwamish peoples, people of Chief Sealth, and are named, they named the major river that runs through Seattle, the Duwamish. But somehow, in the wisdom of that, they have not allowed the Duwamish to be acknowledged as official tribes of the United States. They have a lovely website and a space to go and share in their culture. You could look at the space, the website realrentduwamish.org. And the Longhouse is a space that's on, I believe it's East Marginal Way, South. Have to be particular in the East versus West, two different sides of that island. But I'd like to offer a prayer that one of our tribal elders, her name is Siswinkle Laurel Boucher, and some years ago, and I've tried to continue this tradition in not, she's still with us, but just an acknowledgement of that, the Native peoples and their sacrifices. I'd like, if you would, I'm going to put my hand over my heart and try to gather all that is me and my joys, my sorrows. I'm going to offer that up to Creator. I'm going to raise my hand, and as Creator hopefully will acknowledge my offering, maybe give me a gift in my hand, and then I'd return that to my heart. And as I offer my hand up, I'm going to say the sacred word, oh. So again, thinking about how we've come to this space, what we're offering today, what we'd like to share, what we hope to gather. Let's all take a deep breath. Oh, blessed be.
Thank you, Chris. And our final opening offering is an offering celebrating the divine feminine, which we do every Sunday. And we have our little altar here with a separate little candle, just to remind us that the divine feminine is in each and every one of us and all of the creatures on the earth. We have these complementary energies of masculine and feminine, all of which is part of the divinity within. And today's reading comes from a Hindu, I guess you would call her saint. I don't know, the Hindus call them saints, but a Hindu spiritual teacher named Mira. And she has a secret to share with us. Even with your last breath, repeat the name of the Lord, whose abode stands high like a date palm, loaded with luscious fruits. Do not depend on your own skill and strength to reach the top. Let the holy name be your ladder and your rope. Thus supported, you can neither fall nor fail to reach the top. Make this house of flesh and blood a temple of the Lord. This is Mira's secret to share with you. Amen. So today, as a kind of opening, as I explained, we're going to be getting into smaller groups a little bit later and discussing among ourselves and then with the larger group a little bit how this first quarter of the year has passed through. We've passed through and we've been working with this discernment of engaged Buddhism and collective awakening in beloved community based on the book I showed you. And each month we have gone through some different areas and subjects, and Jamal and I have been working together quite intensively since last fall, right around September. I want to share a little bit with you my journey with this path and how I'm attempting with Jamal and his journey to how we are attempting to bring it to the community so that we can all share the journey together. It began on my heart with a course I took on the actually on the recommendation of Heidi and John Malcolmson and his wife Heidi recommended this course I take when I told them that I was reading this book. And they said, oh, that's a beautiful book. And you know that Plum Village, where Thich Nhat Hanh was teaching all of his years, they have an online course you can take. I went, really? They said, yes, and so they told me how to sign up for it. So I did immediately. I had just finished the book, and I was very excited about it. And I took, I think it was an 8-week course online. I spent several hours a week, probably maybe 5 hours a week. So it was recorded talks. There was some live events. There was some small group talk. It was very multi-dimensional coursework, and all different teachers from Plum Village. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh has passed away, but they had many recordings of his talks to illuminate different subject areas, and it was all based on this book, and they were bringing together their own way of presenting it to a larger audience. And it wasn't the first time they taught this course. It's been being taught continually for a number of years. And I just found it amazing. And I had some background in Buddhism through my reading. I never had a Buddhist teacher per se, but I had traveled to India back in 2004, and I went on a trek with a group, and they were touring Buddhist monasteries in the northwest of India, in the Ladakh region. And it was a hike, it was a trek, it was very mountainous, we got to very high altitudes, but every so often we would stop at a Buddhist monastery and get some teachings. And then we ended up in a small village way up in the mountains where we stayed for about 5 weeks, or 5 days, about a week, in different people's homes, and we lived with people who lived in the Ladakh area way, way up in the mountains. And then we came back, and that was a wonderful, life-changing trip for me. And but I got home, and I wasn't ready to become a Buddhist yet. I was fascinated with a lot of the teachings, and I loved the touring and the traveling. So I just have done more study, and as you all know, I'm interested in many different traditions. But I have to say, at that time, what I found missing for me personally was the concept of a personal God. Something in me wanted to be able to hook up with a personal God. I didn't know why. I'd never been taught about God as a child. I was developing my own ideas about religion because I was not brought up in a religious household. And all my life I'd been developing my own ideas about it, but I found what I thought was missing was a personal relationship with a deity. So I just stuck with that, and I kept going on my pathway. That was 2004, so that was a long time ago. Anyway, in the meantime, I've read a lot of books and passages, and I've studied Interfaith, and I've been very, very attracted to the Buddhist philosophy of life and a lot of the practices. But I can't say that I understood Buddhism, at least not this type of Buddhism. Now, I've read books by the Dalai Lama, and his Buddhism, which I think is called what's the Dalai Lama's Buddhism? Tibetan Buddhism, right, thank you. That's what I had been studying back up in Ladakh, and it's not that different, but I had studied, again, some of his books, and I was very attracted to the way of life of the Buddhist people and the concept of living a nonviolent life. But the practices hadn't stuck with me totally until I got to this book, and until I really got to the classes I took where we practiced the practices together in community. And then we learned about the philosophy behind it, and this one sutra called the Diamond Sutra, which is one of the oldest religious texts that's ever been written down in the history of humankind. And we went pretty deep into that. And at that point, I started to involve Jamal in my search and in my explorations, because I knew he also had a lot of knowledge of Buddhism. In fact, I'd taken classes from him in Buddhism. And so we started working together. I started sharing some of the material with him. I had him read the book, and we would discuss it together, and we've been doing that ever since. And he decided to teach a class in it with his spiritual development class. So he's been teaching since January, a 6-week class, and he's about to start his 3rd round of that. And again, we've been working together. It's an online class as well, and usually has about 25 or 30 people. once a week. We meet for 2 hours. And so he's been delving into this book that way with a lot of people who are aware of and follow his interfaith classes and his spiritual development classes. So it's all very practical. Theory only to the extent that you can understand how it applies to more than one religion. Very definitely, he connects it with other religious philosophies and other religious texts, and then brings in the practices. So in the beginning, so this first few months of the year, we've been through 4 months now, and that's 1/3 of the year, and we've been focusing, it was my job to kind of sort out how we were going to approach this throughout the year. And if you look at the back of your program, you'll see a simplified version of how what it's evolving into. In January, we were started with the most basic theme, which goes through the whole year, which is this whole concept of interbeing. Myself, everything else. We have to break through this illusion that we are separate, that I am a separate entity from everything else. Everything I see, everything I hear, everything I interact with, I am separate. And the Diamond Sutra says, no, it's going to take a diamond and cut through that illusion. We are not separate, period. We are interconnected. And we are interconnected in myriad ways. Myriad, limitless, countless. That's going through the whole year. And the best way to start getting connected with that idea is through the energy of meditation. So we practiced a lot of meditation, and we always do in this community anyway, so that was a natural. In February, we started focusing on the fact that not only are we connected with everybody and everything, but Mother Earth is our mother and is our life. We would not be here if Mother Earth weren't as Mother Earth is. Without her water, without her air, without her minerals, without her light, without her perfect temperature for us to live in. She is us, and we are her, and all of her elements are in us. And we are Mother Earth, just like we are our mother and our father and our ancestors, because every cell in our body reflects this. Now, I can talk about this, we can think about it, we can write about it, but experiencing it is a whole different prospect, and it's what we're working on. And one of the practices we do have to do with taking our meditation outside. Hey, have you ever tried to meditate sitting under a tree, or sitting in your garden, or taking a walk by a lake with your eyes open and with your nostrils smelling the beautiful flowers, and with your ears hearing the birds and the squirrels dashing around and all that? So Thich Nhat Hanh encourages us to engage with the natural world constantly, every day, all the time. And the quote on the front of the program shows how we can use our artist energy to make this a very exciting and important endeavor. He says, in each one of us, there is an artist. The artist can bring freshness, joy, and meaning to life. Practicing mindfulness can always be healing and nourishing if we know how to be creative. Now, I love that quote because most of you who know me, you already know this about me. I like variety. I like new things. I like different things. I don't know, my first piano book was called Something New Every Lesson. That's what I like. I like to learn new things and experience new things. And, probably I get bored easily too. I have trouble sitting through a whole movie, unless it's really engaging, right? I get bored. But with the practices, we never have to get bored if we know how to be creative. And almost every day of the week, I get to a low point in the day at one point or another. It's just like I'm a little bit of a dip. And I think, time to go outside. And it can be pouring down rain, it can be sunny, it can be cloudy, it can be snowing. Time to get on my shoes and go outside. And I will walk around in the neighborhood or drive to a close by spot, drive to Green Lake, come over here, walk around, meet the trees, meet the neighborhood, meet the dogs that people are out walking, meet the birds that are singing in the trees, or the hummingbirds that are flying around, whatever I can find, meet with it and connect with it. And that has a very nourishing effect. Breathe the air. Just feel the wind on my hand and my arm and my face. Whatever I can connect with will be a nourishing experience. And I think that we can always do that. And it means slowing down, and it means not letting other things distract us too much, but if a bird tweets, that's going to distract me. I'm going to go look for it. I heard you now. Where were you? I'm looking for you. And then I see an eagle at the top of the very highest tree at the lake. And I go, oh, there you are. Well, he didn't do the tweeting, but he was up there and sitting there watching me and everybody else walking around the lake. So these are the experiences we can have. And they are very nourishing, and they help us reconnect to the earth. And then, of course, we take it one step further, and we understand that even the cosmos, everything in the cosmos, is interconnected with us. Last night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I didn't know why I had wakened up. I had been sleeping pretty soundly. I woke up suddenly, and I looked up, and I was staring up at what looked like the full moon right inside my window. And I went, oh, thanks for waking me up. You're so beautiful. This happens to me pretty often. Because I don't lower my shades at night. I'm up on the higher floor, and I sleep this way from my window. And I was just lying there, and there was the moon. And I'm like, oh, hi, honey. How are you? And I felt so connected. And these are things that are, I didn't plan that, but for some reason I was open to it. I opened my eyes, and I was glad I had. So every now and then that happens when I'm walking in the evening. I walk home from the club where I go swimming, and I'll suddenly look up at the sky, and there'll be more stars than usual out. It'll be a dark night, a dark sky, maybe no moon, and suddenly there's stars that I don't usually see. Or I see Venus, I see Mars. I can see Mars because it has a little red tint to it. Anyway, whatever you do, whatever you see, it's part of us. It's part of us, and it's connecting with us if we allow it and connect back. So that's our being with the cosmos, and understanding that just like our ancestors are within us, every other being is within us, so is the energy of the stars within us. All the elements that made up our body came from the stars and from the cosmos. So we're trying to make that connection. And then we start transforming, changing a little bit into some of the different concepts in Buddhism, such as how do we deal with suffering? The Buddhist philosophy, the Buddhist religion is based on the Four Noble Truths, the first of which is, hey everybody, sorry to have to break this to you, but there is suffering. Suffering is real. It's in the world. You're going to experience it. I'm going to experience it. Everybody's going to experience it. There is suffering. Second noble truth is the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering having to do with, it could be explained several different ways, that we want certain things to be certain ways, and they aren't always that way. That the world doesn't operate on our timeline and in our way. We have desires, we have wishes, and they're going to be unmet. They're going to be frustrated. But that's not the end of the story. There is a release from suffering, and that is the Eightfold Path that the Buddha later introduced. So this idea of transforming suffering is a major concept in Buddhism, and it's one that Thich Nhat Hanh spent his whole life dealing with because he suffered through he was a very active participant he lived through the Vietnam War, most of the time in Vietnam, trying to end that war while he was experiencing it, while he was in the country fighting it. He wasn't over here trying to end it. He was there trying to end it and having very poor results with that. However, he had a Buddhist group of, a Buddhist community, which kept him and his community going, and they learned a lot about suffering when they were experiencing it and dealing with it. And they learned about non-violence and how to respond to suffering without violence, without hatred, without allowing yourself to be consumed by the pain of it, and instead going through a healing process where you heal yourself, you begin to heal others, and eventually you have the capacity to heal the earth. We all have that capacity. It wasn't something that he claimed was a special gift that he had or that his monks had, although they had developed it and evolved it together through their meditation and their work and their study of how the Buddha and all of his disciples and all of the probably other religious traditions had studied this and found how to deal with it and how that were some possible ways. And of course, it's a complex subject, but it's very important. And so we're in the middle of these 3 months where we're thinking about suffering and how we can approach suffering from the energy of the meditator, the artist, and the warrior. These are the energies that Thich Nhat Hanh, again, identifies. It's 3 out of many. We could probably think of other energies within us. But I've been really interested in thinking about those 3 energies. And that's what we're kind of focusing on now. And then later we'll get into the concept of nonviolence and the concept of how our community can really help us to evolve further along the way of breaking through the illusion that it's now or never. You know, our lifespan is going to end and everything's going to end with us, and so why bother, kind of thing. So the end of the year has the most, I feel, has the most the most complex concepts in it, which is why it's toward the end. And it's also toward the end of the book that he deals with that. So I don't know how many of you have done any reading in the book, and it doesn't really matter. Maybe you've studied some Buddhism. Maybe you've read other books of Thich Nhat Hanh or the Dalai Lama or other Buddhist teachers. Maybe you've heard a little bit about Buddhism. If you've come to Interfaith Community Sanctuary this year, you've heard about Buddhism from our different speakers. And so we all have a little bit of some knowledge and information about the Buddhist principles. And it's the principles that I feel are the most interfaith. No matter what faith you come from, you will find that the principles are very similar, and the practices can be done no matter what you believe about why you're doing them. For example, this mindfulness practice and the connecting with Mother Earth practice, like the wild church that Nora Grace and John run. We can connect with Mother Earth, and it can feed us in a lot of different ways, whether we call ourselves Buddhist or not, or call it a Buddhist practice or just a human practice, a naturalist practice. So probably you've been doing some Buddhist practices, some practices. We don't even have to call them Buddhist practices. Things like bringing your attention back to your breath, calming yourself down, telling ourselves to slow down, taking some deep breaths, taking a walk, a quiet walk, either by yourself or with a friend, using your creative energy. Like one of the talks from the monks, they were talking about when you're washing dishes, wash your dishes like you're washing a small baby, or maybe the baby Buddha, or maybe your grandchild. And when I was told that, it made washing dishes so much more fun. You know, like instead of, hurrying up as fast as I could and getting the dishes out of the way, I thought, oh yeah, make it an act of love. Use your creativity. to bring some awareness to the things you do every day. And then learning how to listen to each other. Creative listening, we're going to be talking about that. And cultivating joy in the present moment, simplifying our lives. These are all practices. They're things we can do and choose to do to make our life more meaningful. So we're going to be thinking about that, and we're going to break into smaller groups now. And we're going to, I have a series of questions, and I thought, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. So you could just gather with 3 people, you know, you 3, you 3, you 3, and you 3, and get your chairs together, and I'm going to pass out a list of questions, and each person can choose whatever question from the list that they want to answer to the group, and have some conversations. You go around once, and then you'll go around again, and until you've all answered a few of the questions, until our time is up. You don't have to go into great detail, and there's even one question that says, is there a question you'd like to answer that isn't on this sheet? So you can do that too. And if you, they're not on here yet. No. Oh, the music, yes. We'll do. Yes, this is perfect. Thank you for reminding me. Before we get into the groups, we'll listen to some music from Steve, who will give us just what we need, and then we'll move our chairs. Thank you, Steve. That's the, yeah, we need the artist within, definitely. Oh, I'm so excited to hear what he has to say. Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much, Steve. Now I want to mention to the folks at home, I'm going to bring a copy of these questions back to Bryce. And if you're at home with somebody you can talk to, you might want to discuss these questions together while we talk. If you're alone, you might want to journal on some of them and see what comes up for yourself. And those of us who are here, if we'll kind of pull our chairs in a little circle of 3, And hopefully you'll be with someone you don't know really well. Maybe you might want to switch with somebody so that you're not with your partner, but it wouldn't matter. It's up to you. And maybe you could make a little circle here, and then you guys could make a circle here. And I'll pass the questions around. I don't know. Let's see. I'll give one to each group first and see how many I have left. You can pass it from person to person. And what'll happen is, well, I'll get everybody started. I'll get everybody set up. And then, I don't know, is there some way you can project these onto the... Or, yeah, there's a lot to write, though. Take a minute. At least start them out. And I think the best way to go about this was, the first person take this paper and read through and just... well, I have more copies. I don't know if I have one for everybody. But I don't want you to be reading the questions while somebody else is talking. So when somebody else is talking, turn the questions over and just let them talk about their question. And then when it's your turn, you can choose any question. You can choose the same question, a different question, or the last one says, do you have another topic you would like to discuss? So if there's something else on your mind that you don't see there, please go ahead and feel free. All right, so it's all up to you what you choose to talk about. And I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm just going to let you go with it. So go ahead. So let's take excuse me just a minute. Let's take a minute or two to make sure everybody's had a chance to speak. I'll give you maybe 3 or 4 more minutes to make sure that everybody's kind of had equal time, hopefully, and then we'll bring this to a close in about 3 to 5 minutes, okay? Okay, let's try to gently wrap this session up and bring our conversations to a close. And maybe I'll give us a little signal. I think that was engaging. It seemed like it was for everybody. And if you did like that and would like more of it, be sure you... I'm just going to talk right on top of you. Be sure you, if you enjoyed that and would like more of it, be sure you come to our membership retreat on May 16th, which is a Saturday, from 12:30 to 4:30. We're going to have a lot more of these conversations, these types of conversations, with people who've been coming to the sanctuary, or maybe some new people as well. So thank you for engaging in that. We're going to take about, I don't know, 5 or 10, maybe 10 minutes to just kind of report back anything, not report back, but just have a chance to say anything you'd like to say to the larger group. I know when we're in small groups, it's very wonderful and intense, but each small group only hears what's in that small group. So if you have something, you yourself have something to say to the larger group that you feel would be, others would like to hear, just something brief, this would be a time to share something that came up for you or that affected you that you heard. I wouldn't speak for anyone else, but if you want to speak for yourself, you're welcome to do that. Okay.
I've been very blessed to be in a very similar community down in Mexico. And what the amazing thing is to me is as you are reaching out and saying that we are all interconnected. And I just feel that so deeply that a lot of the people down there actually know Jamal, and they're from Eugene, and they're from the islands up here, and everybody's kind of our snowbirds. And we're down there, and I brought some chants that we did together every Sunday down in this community in Mexico. So I just want to share with you that, yes, we are here as a community in this building, but there's so many people who are doing the same thing at the same time. So, and to me, that's so uplifting that we are so deeply interconnected.
What is your name?
I'm Elizabeth.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share that has come up for you?
Sally Jo, your comment about the moon and just waking up and seeing it through the window, I had a similar thing happen on Wednesday evening. This month of May is a thing they call a blue moon month, where the 1st of May had a full moon, and then there's going to be another moon at the end of May also. And sitting on my little couch, looking at TV, and suddenly I looked over at my window. Not everybody has been to my home, but I have a curtain that has an image of Shiva on one side and his consort Parvati, or there's various names for her. But the middle part is open, and in the middle, as I was sitting there on my couch, not having done anything special, not having said my Om Namah Shivaya mantra or anything else, there was the moon in between the two deities. And I really felt just blessed that I could observe that, and that the moon still circles our earth, even though some people think it could be for advertising or other silly things. I don't understand it. I didn't see it as advertising to me, but that I felt, that I still, that even though our path together, mine and Lila's, is not the easiest, that I'm in a good place. So I felt blessed. Thank you, and I am blessed.
Thank you for sharing, Chris.
Well, I'm just going to stay on the moon. So, when I was in college, I had a job. This was in Minnesota, and I had a job where I had to take the bus, and I had to get up like at 5 o'clock in the morning to walk to the bus stop. And this is in Minneapolis. Of course, it was winter, and there's snow and everything. And every morning I would walk out, and the first thing I would do is look for the moon. And once I found the moon, I walked through some, not horrible neighborhoods, but some kind of shaky neighborhoods. But as long as I found the moon, I felt safe walking to that bus stop, because I was like the only one out there. The crunching of the snow, and it's cold, and it could be a really lonely feeling, but I had the moon. Yeah.
I used to, when I was young girl, I used to ask my dad, Dad, why is the moon following me around? No matter where I go, it's following me around. Why is that? And so he gave me the scientific explanation, of course, but he's never really answered the question in my heart, because I do feel a connection with the moon that I don't know that maybe everybody feels. But I remember when Reverend Karen Lindquist was alive and she was doing her services for the Divine Feminine, one of the services they said, she and the people who are offering the service, particularly her friend from Eastern Washington, I'm forgetting her name right now, she told us, if you're having trouble understanding how to relate to the Divine Feminine, pick a symbol that might symbolize her for you. And I immediately knew, even just while I was sitting there, that my symbol was the moon, and that was my symbol for Divine Feminine. So I always address her as, "How are you doing, honey?" You know, I address her as a female, and I think of her as watching over me the same way. But I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Augusta.
I was going to just ask you guys. Sometimes the moon is not there.
Right, sometimes it's not, that's right. And then I get very sad, because the moon isn't always out at night. But it's sometimes there in the morning or in the day. You say it is always there?
Okay. He asked me, for the people online, Augusto asked me, what do I do if the moon isn't there? And I think, and this goes with, I guess, Thich Nhat Hanh's books of interbeing, is if the moon wouldn't be there, I don't remember it not being there, but I know myself that I would find something else to be my protector or something.
Like star or a star.
Yeah, or a star or something, or I don't know. That's just kind of how I operate a billboard. I'm gonna announce all these things so that people online can hear. Steve said a billboard.
That's right. You have to get creative. Don't be too restricted to one and only thing. That's beautiful. And one thing I forgot to mention about the suffering, when we were talking about suffering, and I think about this a lot when I'm walking along, particularly if I'm in a frump or I feel like there are people suffering that I wish weren't and I can't get it off my mind. And again, lots of times when I'm walking Green Lake and this thought comes by me, and I walk right by the lily pads, and I think there's the lotus and there's the mud. You can't have the lotus without the mud. You can't always see the mud, but the mud is there, and the mud is going to transform this flower into something beautiful. And that could be me, that could be you, that could be the person who's suffering. And when you go to a country where there's a lot of suffering and a lot of people in a lot of dire straits, and you wonder, how can they laugh and have fun and get together and dance and sing? Because the lotus and the mud, they're not going to be suffering every minute of their day. They're going to find a way to transform it. And in fact, what Thich Nhat Hanh says is you won't and can't have the lotus without the mud. You may think there's going to be a beautiful world where there's all lotuses and no mud, but he claims not necessarily. So we'll have to see. Anyway, these are the kinds of things that the natural world can teach to us as we go with it.
I'm not supposed to apologize. The lotus and the mud, I've thought about that. Even coming into the world is muddy. It's hard, it's difficult, it's bloody, muddy. Yeah, and then you come into the world and you have, hopefully your mother's chest on. And leaving the world is not easy, but I think there's probably a lotus flower on the other side also. So it kind of goes with all aspects of life. Stopping now.
This isn't directly on point, but I wanted to say that I'm very impressed that you addressed the divine feminine as honey.
Shall I tell them the secret? I call a lot of people honey. It's just a habit I got, I think, from my mother. But thank you. It's just my term of endearment, And I think she understands. Very good. All right. Well, then, let's go on with other parts of our service. We want to thank the people out in the cyberspace and remind them that this is our time to share our wealth and give back to the community for all the wonderful things that we are give and take. And we would appreciate any extra funds you have to donate, and if not, that's okay too. When you have them, we know you'll share them. And I know the folks online, if they're still there, they've had a difficult time with this service, but they'll hopefully be able to give us a little encouragement. And we appreciate all the time and energy and funds that are offered so that we can continue with our wonderful upkeep of our historic building and all of the programs that take place. And speaking of programs, we do have a lot of wonderful upcoming gatherings coming this month. I mentioned the membership retreat on May 16th, which is a Saturday, and it's from 12:30 to 4:30, and that's the 16th. The 15th, the day before the retreat, our Dances for Universal Peace are coming back with Elizabeth DeQuine, and she's going to be guiding us in Dances for Universal Peace. And also, we have a special concert coming up next weekend, which is, it's going to be something different and a little bit unusual. And it's on this Saturday the 9th, starting at 6:30 to, I think, 9:30. 4 different bands who are, they're sort of current music. I don't know what you would call, I don't know what they're calling music, what kind of music they're called, but they told me it was kind of folksy. It's their local bands. One's from California. They're having an album release party. I think the music will be very different. They call it meditative